Japan's First Lady visits PNGDF military band. PNG Energy Taget Set. And city fuel stations seeing low customer flows.
This is National EMTV News with Merba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Sunday's news. First Lady Aki Abe, wife of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, visited the PNGDF military band at Mari Barracks yesterday. The band was trained and equipped with Japanese assistance over the past 3 years through the JICA ODA Grant Fund. The visit by the First Lady of Japan signifies the close relationship that the PNGDF has with Japan.
The Papua New Guinea Defence Force military band consists of 41 band members, including 8 female members, with a conductor, Lieutenant Boroga Robert Yamba. All members of the band are young, enthusiastic soldiers and officers. In previous years, the PNGDF military band lacked proper equipment and training until Japan stepped in to provide them with equipment and proper training. The training was under Colonel Kazuo Mizusina, a Japanese expert under the JICA program. They were all beginners, but he trained them to be better performers.
It was very hard for me, especially the beginning. They are all beginners, and I couldn't read the music. Then I tried to. In the beginning, with them, I play my instrument, saxophone, together, and one by one, I instructed them.
The military band played some music to entertain the First Lady and the other delegates. The military band showed confidence in their performance and proved that they are ready to perform at any occasions. Also accompanying the First Lady was Ritsuko Nakajima, the wife of Japanese ambassador and PNGDF Chief of Staff Captain Philip Polewara. JICA's expert Colonel Mizusina was satisfied that the band has learned a lot from him and has become one of the best military band after performing at various ceremonies.
Today's performance was very good than I expected. They are now the very good band, especially in the Pacific bands. I thought it's better than Australia.
The First Lady was presented with a balloon as a token of appreciation for the support they received from Japan. Meanwhile, the Japanese embassy provided the band with new musical instruments, and the band was also further equipped by a goodwill donation from a high school in Japan. The PNGDF is now proud of its totally transformed military band and ready to perform at any occasion. Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Australia, Japan, New Zealand and the United States of America have announced their commitment to helping to improve electricity access for Papua New Guineans. This multilateral funding agreement was signed today, signaling the start of work to enable 70% total population to have access to electricity by the year 2030. On the sidelines of the APEC Leaders Summit in Port Moresby this morning, the leaders of Australia, Japan, New Zealand and the United States announced their plan to assist Papua New Guinea to improve access to electricity. Through an agreement, Papua New Guinea's partners will help finance the rural electrification program through established financial and bilateral agreements. According to PNG Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, this program will directly benefit Papua New Guineans, most living in rural areas.
The partnership will also see us incorporate fiber optic cabling onto the expanded grid to support a greater affordability and access of internet across Papua New Guinea. This is a partnership of true regional economies, quite unlike the conventional model of development cooperation that we have had in the past. That is why I'm very thankful and I'm pleased that I'm able to stand beside the leaders of Australia, Japan, New Zealand and the United States in making this announcement.
For Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, their assistance in this agreement reaffirms their commitment to PNG as their closest neighbour and a key partner in development in the Pacific.
This underpins our commitment to being here, having always been here, and we will always be here to support the people of PNG and to see their economic development.
Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says this agreement adds to the work that they have already begun undertaking in Morobe Province, where they are assisting communities to have access to energy.
日本は現在、モロベ州で送電網強化事業を行っています。米国、豪州、ニュージーランド等の同志国と連携しつつ、PNG を含め、広くインド太平洋地域の連結性向上のために、インフラ分野できめ細かい支援を行っていく考えであります。
Japan is now conducting a project for strengthening power transmission network in the Morobe province. And together with the other like-minded nations, including the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, we will remain committed to providing carefully thought-out assistance to enhance the connectivity in this part of the world, namely in the Indo-Pacific region, including our traditional partner, Papua New Guinea.
Whilst congratulating the PNG government for its policy in setting a target of 70% access to energy by 2030, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said it would only assist in the country's development, especially in terms of advancing women's rights.
We know, of course, that not only with the assumptions, of course, around the role that women play in the household, but also when they're able to access the tools needed for enterprise, the tools needed to encourage digital transformation, then ultimately they and their families will thrive. But of course, power and electricity sits at the heart of being able to unleash that potential.
The United States of America is also a partner in this ambitious program. Its Vice President, Mike Pence, expects this program to be a key enabler of further development in Papua New Guinea in the years ahead.
It is remarkable to think of the impact this will have on people's lives all across this nation. Electricity will drive economic growth, but as others have said, it will simply improve the quality of life for people all across Papua New Guinea for generations to come, and the people of the United States of America are honored to partner with you.
The announcement today is being viewed as an effort to counter the growing influence of China in this region, which is fast becoming the last battleground for geopolitical influence. Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break and be back with more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The US-China trade fire at yesterday's APEC CEO summit has been reported overseas. New Zealand, meanwhile, feels it has a better deal with Papua New Guinea.
A proper Papua New Guinean welcome. Jacinda Ardern among 21 world leaders descending on the Pacific island for its first APEC summit. Parts of it were business as usual, smiling, waving, the family photo complete with matching shirts.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's just
so beautiful she covered it up.
It's just I don't wear a lot of yellow, that's all.
Other things were quite different. Delegations being posted on cruise ships, the 40-strong fleet of Maseratis bought to transport leaders. Ardern passed on the luxury car.
The Toyota is very trusty.
And the global environment different. An escalating trade war between China and the United States meant the superpowers were flexing their muscle here. China has made a huge show. The Chinese president flew in early for a state visit before all other leaders arrived. And the United States announced it will join forces with Australia to build a naval base here in a bid to lock China out from developing a Pacific base. US Vice President Mike Pence clearly advising Pacific nations to be careful about accepting loans from China.
Do not accept foreign debt that could compromise your sovereignty.
Jacinda Ardern says we will not buy into the tit for tat in the Pacific.
Our relationship is unique and it won't be determined by what happens with any other nation, nor should it be.
While the superpowers have been spending up large on things like roads and infrastructure, New Zealand has taken a more focused approach. New Zealand contributed to the renovation of Gordon's Market to make it safer for women to do business. We've partnered with Japan, Australia and the United States on a project to provide electricity to 70% of the country by 2030. And we've put a couple of million into vaccinations, including polio. There's been an outbreak here recently.
The kinds of things that we invest in are the things that the local people prioritise.
We provide a comprehensive approach. Not pointing to any other country, but some countries don't do that.
He's obviously pointing at the US and China. While they may be flashing the money, we offer integrity.
Countries are looking at us because they don't see a hidden agenda. The game has changed, and we have got, I think, coming a potential for far greater partnerships than we've ever had.
As the US and China step up their trade war talk, Winston Peters thinks it provides a major opening for New Zealand.
There's enormous opportunity. It arises from the fact that other countries are looking at New Zealand with fresh eyes now, and that's dramatic. So out of disorder, I think we've got order coming.
A new world order that's throwing up opportunity for New Zealand politically and economically.
In Port Moresby, craft markets and traditional dancers displayed their works for APEC delegates who visited the Jack Piddick Park today. The mini cultural show also brought good news for art and craft sellers in Port Moresby who do not have a formal market space to sell. Rosemary Yambuna reports.
More than 100 art and craft sellers put up their products for display at the Jack Piddick Park in Port Moresby today. Traditional dance groups that were expected to perform were absent. The event was open to the public and especially for visiting APEC delegates.
We want to show all our cultures to our foreign delegates who are here in the country.
Within these 5 days of mini cultural show, the sellers have seen many customers from the international community wishing to buy the crafts as souvenirs.
They were concerned because of the security, the customs. There are some things they couldn't take into their countries.
The mini cultural show also brought good news for the people who market crafts. The governor for the National Capital District said to build a market for them.
The governor has provided a market for our fish vendors. He has provided market for our billiard sellers and the vegetable, but the only area that is missing out is the craft and the arts market.
Rosemary Yambune, National EMTV News.
There has been a decrease in the number of PNV buses operating within the nation's capital due to restrictions on certain routes for the APEC summit. And this weekend has not been a good one for fuel stations. Patricia Keamo reports.
Most of the service stations' earning comes from the PNV buses refueling for their daily routes. However, fuel stations around the city are making loss because not many PNV buses are running this weekend.
We got a wanted drop, the volume blah blah, but people helping big league go along all, especially online, all APEC line go come in like fuel to Japanese embassy and Australian ICOM, online come APEC come Kishim.
On the other hand, the service station manager at 5 Mile said that since Friday, they had cars for the APEC staff coming in to refuel. So far, they have not made any major loss that really affects their business, but just a slight drop in their earnings compared to the usual daily earnings. Meanwhile, because there were less PNV buses on the road, this also affected the traveling public. Many city residents had to walk long distances to get to their destination.
Bus no run to mass. Maybe Friday, since Friday come Saturday now Sunday the bus now Sunday the bus no run to ya.
Now the day mibla walk about there. One mibla salim la walk about. Aste to same thing. No PNB bus mibla walk about go come.
Now lo Sunday no abas street. Me et Mr. Stalo Lahara. Mila go lotu na me kam bad no abas Mr. go 10 o'clock now. Mila go begin Laos.
Me walk about lo here kolong golden snook at bus. Me walk about ikamya. Okay, also na may kolong grow ba how ba me ko. Misanap long platam. 2 hours misanap lo fumal.
However, they are confident that all will return to normal when the APEC summit ends. Patricia Camo, National EMTV News.
Here with Sunday's news, we'll go for another break and be back with more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, nobody thought this could happen. Those were the words of the American President, Donald Trump, as he surveyed the fallout from the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in California's history. The so-called Camp Fire in the north of the state has killed at least 71 people and more than 1,000 are reported missing.
In the ruins of Paradise, the President got his own clear view of just how devastating this fire was. And he offered his sympathy to the people of this town and the families of those still missing.
This is very sad to see it. As far as the lives are concerned, nobody knows quite yet. We're up to a certain number, but we have a lot of people that aren't accounted for.
A week ago, while this earth was still hot, the President sparked a debate about forest management. He'd threatened to cut government funding, but after the anger of his initial reaction, today he met some of those who responded and have been searching what's left. He was asked if any of this made him think differently about climate change.
No. I have a strong opinion. I want great climate. We're going to have that, and we're going to have forests that are very safe.
The President has shown Paradise, like so many other places, that his words can be divisive and controversial before they're unifying and supportive. But his message here today is that he stands with the people here. Meanwhile, they stand in line to fill in the forms for federal government help. People need to re-establish their identity before they can rebuild their lives, and not all gave the President a welcome.
And he's saying that, that the forests have been mismanaged. Well, it's federal. It's the Bureau of Land Management. It's taken care of by the feds.
Paradise must be seen to be believed. The President's viewed a fraction of what's been lost here. The full extent of the destruction and what caused it is still being revealed.
Exactly 1 year and a day after it vanished, a missing Argentine submarine has been found at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Officials say the wreckage cannot be recovered. However, relatives of the submarine crew are demanding answers, closure and justice.
Embracing loved ones, grieving relatives comfort each other while reliving a tragedy. After a year of waiting, they're now getting some answers in the disappearance of their family members, but not the ones they were hoping to hear.
We thought they had other information. We had the illusion they would find them alive.
A U.S. search team has found the wreckage of an Argentine submarine that went missing last November with 44 crew members on board. It was discovered on the ocean floor of the South Atlantic, more than 870 meters below the water's surface. The Navy says the sub suffered an implosion and none of the crew members could have survived. Now that the wreckage has finally been found, the Argentine government says they can't afford to bring it home.
We did not even have means to go down to the depths of the sea. We also do not have equipment to extract a ship of these characteristics.
For those who've been waiting to locate their loved ones, this is simply unacceptable.
They have located it, now they need to deliver our relatives to us.
If we don't see it, we can't have closure, so we're going to demand that the President find a way to get the remains out, because it's possible to do.
It was an American company hired by Argentina that finally found the vessel after what had been a massive search. Several countries had helped look for the submarine after its disappearance, but most gave up before the end of 2017. Argentina's Navy stopped rescue operations only 2 weeks after the sub went missing. One of the reasons families have criticized their handling of the case. Relatives also faulted the Navy for waiting several days after the disappearance to acknowledge a key detail. In his last communication, the captain had reported a short circuit, returning from a routine mission off Argentina's coast. The submarine's maintenance was also called into question. Although refitted 5 years before the disaster, the diesel vessel was nearly 40 years old. On Saturday, families of the crew members demonstrated outside the naval base from where the submarine sailed last year, demanding the return of their loved ones and more accountability in this tragedy.
Up to now, I kept hoping. It's hard for me to let it go. Now I can only keep fighting and asking the judge that she please work so that they return the submarine.
The United States is not drawing any final conclusion just yet on who is responsible for Jamal Khashoggi's murder. The CIA says the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia personally ordered the murder and based its assessment on global intelligence. Here's a breakdown of the known evidence.
Their conclusion is based upon a variety of sources of intelligence. Some of them are the audio recordings that Turkish intelligence shared with CIA Director Gina Haspel last month in Turkey. She traveled there where she was given access to that audio from inside the consulate, which accordingly documents the torture, murder, and dismemberment of Jamal Khashoggi on the 2nd of October inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. In addition to that, there is a phone intercept from U.S. intelligence, has nothing to do with Turkey, in which Khalid bin Salman, the Saudi ambassador to the United States, speaks with Jamal Khashoggi and tells him in order to get this document he needed to remarry, he should go to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and apparently the Saudi ambassador assured Mr. Khashoggi that he would be safe in doing so. Now, according to this report in the Washington Post, this conversation was prompted by Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince. In addition to that, the CIA apparently also had access to a phone call between Mohammed Mutrib, who's a security official who was part of the 15-man Saudi hit team that went to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, who, according to the New York Times, called up Saud al-Qahtani, who is one of the senior advisors of the Saudi crown prince, and told him, tell your boss the deed has been done. On top of all that, the CIA is concluding also that given that Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy and Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince, is the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia, there's no way that this murder would have taken place without his knowledge and probably at his orders.
It was a dream of a woman ahead of her time to collect together every New Zealand native plant into one garden, and she chose one of the country's most remote locations to do it. Now, more than 80 years later, the garden continues to attract visitors and helpers.
It's the country's southernmost public garden and a place where native plants and a passion for conservation thrive.
None of us owns anything and we just caretakers, and I think we should.
Stewart Island's Moturau Moana garden was originally owned by conservation enthusiast Nolene Baker in the 1930s. Her mission was to collect all the country's native plants together in one place.
It tells the story. Miss Baker was a special lady, really, probably ahead of her time.
The garden was gifted to the Crown in 1940, and while its founder has passed on, 78 years later, her mission continues. There's hundreds of native plants in the garden from all around the country, and every year volunteers introduce at least 20 more species. For the garden's full-time keeper, Elaine Hamilton, this place is personal. Her parents even got engaged on this bench.
That's where she told me he had proposed to her, so that was quite lovely. Nice to tell the grandchildren.
But it's no easy task to maintain the 14-hectare site.
There's very invasive clover here,
which is why volunteers come over from the mainland to help for 1 week each year. It's a partnership between the District Council, the Department of Conservation and Elaine.
They get good meals.
The volunteer program's been hugely successful, and we never have a problem in filling up the spots.
If it isn't done, things will just disappear, and that would be really sad.
With new plants added to the garden every year, Ms. Baker's legacy's in good hands.
Here with National EMTV News this Sunday, we go for a break and be back with some sporting updates in Trukai Sports up next. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Kiwi coach Joe Smith is now called the All Black Slayer after guiding Ireland to another epic win against the world champions New Zealand. This time 16 points to 9 in Dublin.
Ireland waited 111 years for their first win over the All Blacks. It's taken just 2 to get the second, their first at home.
The team that was better on the day got the W.
In Chicago, they needed a 5-try blitz to bury the world champions. In Dublin, just one stunning solo effort by 22-year-old Jacob Stockdale. In the last 15 years, no team has beaten the All Blacks with a score as low as 16 points. But not many teams have been able to strangle them like this.
Irish holding the All Blacks up off the ground. That's a maul, so this doesn't re-emerge. Ireland win it, yes.
But even under immense pressure, a champion side knows momentum will eventually swing. But not with 18 turnovers, 12 of which were handling errors. Even the so-called best scrum in the world had a day to forget. The All Blacks conceding 11 penalties after just 4 against England last week. A big reason for that was a man-of-the-match performance by Ireland's Peter O'Mahony, who snuffed out the last 2 genuine chances for an All Blacks try. The late scramble ended with Kiwi-born Bundy Aki celebrating over his former Chiefs teammate Brodie Retallick. Once dismissed by Irish fans as a plastic paddy, his Samoan culture now part of their post-match celebration. But it's the influence of his coach that will be talked about most, with even Steve Hansen open to a discussion about bringing Joe Schmidt's talents back home.
And All Blacks coach Steve Hansen says Ireland can now call itself the best side in the world, and the team celebrated that way in its post-match reaction.
Pure joy outside, but still sinking in inside.
You're physically exhausted, but mentally you're absolutely ecstatic. So yeah, look, it's just it's another little bit of history that this squad has managed to etch out for itself.
Irish coach Kiwi Joe Schmidt proud his squad thwarted the world's #1s from scoring a single try.
It is so seldom that the All Blacks don't score a try, but as I just explained, there were 3 potential tries that we managed to scramble on.
Meanwhile, in the All Blacks camp,
just gutted that we let ourselves lose.
No doubt, though, the Green deserved the win.
I think Ireland were just, too good for us.
They took the opportunities that they got to win a lot in the game. They took their one and we just didn't take ours.
The result prompting questions as to who's now the World Cup favourite.
As of now, they're the #1 team in the world, so I guess they are favourites.
We'll take tonight and we'll leave 11 months for 11 months' time.
Tonight, history has been made. The Irish have finally beaten the All Blacks on home soil, making it a night to remember. We did it!
I've been at too many close losses to New Zealand, so that was particularly special.
The atmosphere was so good. To see the Irish win, I didn't even care that we lost. It was just great. It was great.
Hard luck, New Zealand.
Better luck next time.
Better luck next time.
Yes, better luck against the Italians next week.
Stay tuned. We'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The PNG Professional Boxing Gym will wrap up its 2018 calendar with a scheduled international bout set for December. The event will feature professional boxers from PNG and the Indonesian province of Papua.
The event scheduled on the 22nd of December will feature fighters from across the border up against local professional fighters. PNG Professional Boxing Gym President Awin Wafeva said the event will put the spotlight on the code that has been considered dormant for quite some time.
It's first in its kind. We have introduced the belt fight in Papua New Guinea, and we would like to say thank you for our major sponsor to sponsor the belt and in case to help us to move this event forward, and then the bigger one in next year.
There will be 3 title fights and 3 supporting non-title fights expected to happen on December 22nd. There are 3 belts for the bantamweight title, lightweight title and the middleweight.
Who've been training hard for past months. They are preparing themselves for challenging themselves for undercards, and we have 3 main events with Junior Raka, and then we have Jimmy Pice, and we have John Korake and Kaka.
Universal Promotion and PNG great Martin Benny said the international bout will give a much needed exposure to the local fighters.
We're going to make young boys to come up to be a good boxers, and we never know. And I pray to God that one day Papua New Guinea become a world champion, just like Manny Pacquiao.
Major sponsor and longtime supporter Trophy House has designed the title belts for the event, marking the commitment to the growth of professional boxing in PNG.
This kind of sports, and I believe all the fighters of PNG one day, you will be also the same in the Philippines, that you will be having your own people's champion in PNG.
More of this on Sportsin Monday at 8 p.m. Podivai, National EMTV Sports.
To cricket now, and New Zealand's Black Caps have revived themselves to give them a chance in the first cricket test against Pakistan in Abu Dhabi. Here are the highlights on day 2.
Creeping closer to a first innings lead, New Zealand needed a breakthrough. That breakthrough coming in innocuous fashion.
Catch it! Yeah! On gone. Soft dismissal.
And as is so often the case, 1 wicket brings 2.
Edge, and it's taken. Beautiful catch behind the stumps.
But again, Pakistan steadied, surging past the Black Caps' meagre first innings total, Shafiq and Azhar putting on 83 for the 5th wicket, before that man Bolt struck again.
And he comes back with this. Oh, let's celebrate.
Those celebrations escalating with an historic moment for Ajaz Patel.
Catch it! Yeah! Goes for that sweep shot, and first wicket for Ajaz Patel.
When I walked away, it was something that Ish mentioned to me, kind of said, look, that 1 wicket is something you've been working your whole life towards. So, yeah, it definitely sent a few chills down my spine.
And not long after that, Patel had a second with sharp work from BJ Watling. All of a sudden, Pakistan drastically losing its ascendancy. Wagner and de Grandhomme chiming in on the fun late, with Bolt grabbing the last of his haul.
It's taken down the leg side. That is the end of Pakistan's innings.
Pakistan all out for 227, a lead of just 74. And while Latham fell on his very first ball,
what a beginning!
New Zealand scrambled back into the test, going to stumps just 18 behind on 56 for 1.
And that's it for Trukai Sports this evening. Stay tuned. Up next, we'll have the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Port Moresby fine, although partly cloudy with a top of 33 degrees. Mostly fine for Daru, mostly cloudy for Kerma, mostly fine for Alatau and Popondetta. To the Momasa region, mostly cloudy for Ley and Wau. Showers and thunderstorms expected in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, Lorangau, Kokopo, Rabaul and Kavieng can expect rain and showers and possible thunderstorms over the next 24 hours. Rain showers and thunderstorms also expected for Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa can expect some rain developing and morning fog and cloudy and foggy weather over the next 24 hours for Mendi and Wabeg. To look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, Yule Island to Hood Point to Samurai Island, and waters of Long Island to Medang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo and the northern PNG Indonesian border, and waters of Manus and its western group of islands sea 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands and waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finchafen, with waters of New Island to East New Britain and Bougainville sea 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Finchafen through Vitias Strait and Dampier Strait, including Siasi Island to Long Island, seas 1 to 2 meters, and waters of West New Britain seas 1 to 1.5 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea, sea slight with southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Solomon Sea, sea slight to moderate with south to southeasterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. Bismarck Sea, sea slight to moderate with southeast to southwesterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. In the Pacific Ocean, sea slight with south to southwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Sunday the 18th of November 2018. Following right after the news, we'll have a wrap-up of the APEC Leaders Summit with Lian Gerari. But for now, on behalf of the entire EMTV News team from right around Papua New Guinea, pleasant viewing, have a safe working week. Good night.